Hello learners, I welcome you back to the course of Environmental Economics. This lecture today will be introducing you to the concept of sustainable development. I am Dr. Aparna Samudra from the Department of Economics, RTM Nagpur University, Nagpur, and I will be discussing with you today the concept of sustainable development. Let us have a look at the learning objectives of this particular lecture. In this lecture, we will be defining the concept of sustainable development. We will also understand the three pillars of sustainability and outline the perspective of sustainable development. In the previous lectures, we've already seen that how the concept of environmental economics has taken shape. That how the various researchers, scientists and economists have asked the governments of the countries to design policies which ensures that the development which they are doing for the economy is sustainable in the sense that whatever we are consuming today, some part of it is preserved, conserved and passed on to the future generations. The concept of sustainability came into being in 1987 with the view of because of environmental degradation which was taking place due to the over-exploitation of resources which was being done to achieve a high economic growth rate. It was the Brundtland Commission report in 1987 which defined sustainable development comprehensively. Let us have a look at that definition. The definition given in this report says that sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. That is, in the development in order to be sustainable means that we are not sacrificing the needs of the present generation. But we are seeing to it that whatever we are doing today, whatever resources we are consuming today, whatever production and consumption we are doing today, we see to it that we do not compromise on the access of these resources by the future generations so that these generations can also meet their production as well as consumption needs. If we have a look at this definition, there are three very peculiar characteristics we see in this definition. One, this definition is global in scope. That is, it is not only mentioning about the environmental conservation or the economic growth and development of a particular set of countries. Not only that, it is taking into account all types of economic growth we are saying. It is taking into account the growth and development of all the sectors that we see in the economy. Second very important characteristic of this definition is that it is timeless or is an ongoing process. That is, we are saying that sustainable development will happen only if we consider it as an ongoing process. That is, it doesn't stop with one particular regime, it doesn't stop with one particular generation. Generations to generations, or from one phase of development to another phase of development of any country, whatever economic growth or development we are doing, when it takes into account the factors that what resources they are using and what are they giving back in terms of residue to the environment, that thinking and those policies should be an ongoing process. Third, another principle which we see in sustainable development is that it is based on the principle of intergenerational equity. Now, two things are there. One, it is saying that this particular development should not stop at one particular generation. The resources which we are using, they should be used in such a way that generation to generation, this sustainability or this availability of resources is there. Second is what we call as equity. Equity means that irrespective of what level of society you are in, what is your social status in the society, whether you belong to a higher income group or a lower income group, you belong to a rural setup or an urban setup, you belong to an industrialized economy or an advanced nation, or you are still belong to an economy which is developing, this access to resources or this sustainable development should be equal to all. So this concept of intergenerational equity is a very important concept which has been introduced in sustainable development. Now, when we say sustainability, there are three pillars to sustainability. Generally, when we think of sustainability, the first thing which comes to anyone's mind is environment. So, although sustainability is linked to the environmental movement, but it is not the only focus of sustainability. See, for example, if we are saying all living organisms, when we started this lecture, we had defined it what is an environment. So, environment, all of us are sharing, it is biotic and abiotic. Living organisms, water resources, land resources, air resources, everything encompasses in an environment. So, environment is the large set under which the economy and the society both are dependent. As society, we are living in this environment, and within this society, we have economy. So, economy is there because of the society, and both society and economy are there in the environment. So, even though sustainability is concerned with the environment, but it is not only about environment. It is also about what is happening in the economy, because ultimately this is where production and consumption is going to take place. But when we talk about intergenerational equity, when we talk about the rights of the future generation, we are talking about the society. So, there are three pillars to sustainability. We will be looking at from the point of view of environment. We will be looking at it from the point of view of society, and thereafter we will be looking at it from the view of economy. Also, these three pillars, that is economic pillar, environmental pillar and the social pillar, are also known as the profits, planet and the people. Why? Because profits are basically a part of economy. Anybody who is producing something by using raw materials is working for profits. Planet is of course associated with our environment, and people, the society, the people we are living in, we belong to a social setup or society. Therefore, this is also called as your economic pillar is also known as the profit pillar. Environment is also known as the planet pillar, and the people are also known as the social pillar. So that's a very good way of remembering the concept of sustainability, that it is not only about environment, it is also about economics, it is also about the society. Now let us have the look at all the three pillars of the sustainability one by one. The first pillar we will be discussing is about economic sustainability. What does economic sustainability focus on? Economic stability focuses on maintaining a stable and prosperous economy that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. But here we are talking about an economy or a pillar of sustainability which is a stable economy, which is, in where we try to avoid the ill effects of the business cycles. Also, we are talking about a prosperous economy, which is saying that every economy intends to increase the per capita income of their country. So, economic sustainability is talking about stability in the economy as well as the prosperity in the economy. How does it intend to do that? This economic stability is involving promoting sustainable consumption practices and also sustainable production patterns. Why? Because it intends to foster an economic growth which is inclusive and equitable and also ensures the financial stability. That is, whatever we are consuming, whether it is sustainable or not. Similarly, are our production patterns or the production processes, are they sustainable or not? So, since economic activity is all about consumption and production, if you remember the lecture of material balance model, we had introduced the circular flow of income, where we had taken two sectors. One was households and other were the firms. Now, we had seen that there is an interaction between both the sectors. Households are consuming what the firms are producing. Firms are using the factors of production from the households and then they are converting into the finished good. So, when we talk about economic stability, we are talking about the consumption patterns which are sustainable. Also, we are talking about the production by the firms which follows a sustainability criteria. The second pillar of sustainability is the social sustainability, which is concerned with the society. It says that social sustainability is the ability of the society to uphold universal human rights. That is, here we are talking about the concept of equity. Here we are talking about the social development of the society. So, we intend to make a society, or the social sustainability is focusing on making a society which is upholding the universal human rights and also such a way that people's basic needs, what are the basic needs of the people? We say healthcare, access to good healthcare, access to education and access to transport. So, apart from upholding universal human rights, we are saying that development should be such that it is also meeting the basic needs of the people, that is healthcare, education and transportation. Therefore, this pillar encompasses access to basic needs. If you remember, we had said that these are the needs for which everybody works. If you remember the socio-economic approach to the sustainability we did in the previous lecture, there we had said that if the country does not take care of the basic needs of the people, it will lead to a higher economic degradation. Therefore, social sustainability says that we need to see that the basic needs of the people, that is their food, shelter, healthcare, education, they have to be taken care of. Apart from this, it also talks about gender equality. It also talks about diversity and inclusion, labor rights and community engagement. So, this pillar is basically saying that because the economy is using the resources from the society, the sustainability should be such, or the economic development should be such, that the society also has an equality built in it, so that we do not have income inequalities or gender inequalities, so that everybody in the society enjoys the benefit of this particular development. The next pillar of sustainability is the environment sustainability. We have all been talking about environment and environmental degradation. What does environmental stability say? It says environment stability will occur when humanity's rate of consumption does not exceed the nature's rate of replenishment. See, what a nice way of putting what is sustainability. That is, whatever resources we are taking from the society in order to produce and consume, the rate at which we are doing this consumption should not exceed the nature's rate of replenishing back. Okay, for example, if there is a pond in which people are doing fishing for the sake of their livelihoods, if they keep on overfishing what will happen over a time is that this whole ecosystem of that pond will get disturbed. Because of this overfishing, the nature could not replenish the fishes at the same rate at which we had consumed those fishes. So, environment sustainability says it will occur when the humanity's rate of consumption of the resources does not exceed the nature's rate of replenishment. And further, what does it say? It says that when humanity's rate of generating pollution and emitting greenhouse gases should also not exceed nature's rate of restoration. That is, on one hand, we are talking about the rate of replenishment by the nature. On the other side, we are also talking about the restoration rate of the nature. So, basically it is saying that consumption patterns or the production patterns should be such that we give enough time to the nature to replenish itself as well as restore the damage which this production and consumption has done by way of generating pollution or by way of emitting of the greenhouse gases. Therefore, environment sustainability involves minimizing pollution, reducing waste, conserving biodiversity, and also mitigating the impact of human activities on the ecosystem. So, these are the three pillars on which the sustainability is based. As you can see from this figure, that in order to have sustainability, we need to have social sustainability, we need to have environmental stability, and also we need to have an economic stability. Now, let us understand that what are the various perspectives of the sustainable development. These perspectives are very similar to the pillars. Rather, these perspectives have been taken from the pillars of sustainability which we have discussed. So, three perspectives we will be discussing: economic perspective, ecological perspective, and the social perspective. You must have seen by the names itself that all three of them belong to one pillar of sustainability. Economic belongs to the economic sustainability pillar, ecological perspective belongs to the environmental sustainability pillar, and the social perspective involves, it's attached to the social sustainability pillar. So let's have a look at all three of them one by one. The first one which we will be discussing is the economic perspective. Economic perspective of sustainability basically is referring to the ability to maintain economic growth and prosperity over the long term while preserving and enhancing environmental quality and social well-being. So this perspective of sustainability, as you can see from this definition, it is of course talking about the environment and it is also talking about the society. But the prime objective of economic perspective of sustainability is economic growth and prosperity. That is, if a country is following the economic perspective of stability, it will first focus on the level of its economic growth and its prosperity over a longer period of time. And then by doing the process of doing so, it says that we will also talk about preservation and enhancement of environmental quality and the social well-being of the people. As you can see, under this particular perspective, sustainability is defined in terms of maximization of human welfare over time. That is, it is saying that if an economy is growing enough to take care of the income needs of the people, if the per capita income of the society is enhanced, then with that income, the country will be able to take care of its environmental quality as well as the social well-being. And that too not limited to a small period of time, it is talking about a long-term perspective. It focuses on providing economic growth, welfare of the people at present and in the future. Right? What is it saying? It's a long-term perspective. We need to maintain economic growth and prosperity over a long period of time. So, it is talking about the economic welfare of the people in the present generation and also in the future, going by the definition of sustainable development which we have just seen, while paying more attention to the natural capital. So, there are two types of capital. One is natural capital, which is given to us by Mother Nature. Other is man-made capital, like machinery. Okay, so here the focus is on the welfare, economic welfare of the people or in living in the present generation as well as in the future, along with giving attention to the natural capital. So, this perspective is all about balancing economic growth, generating profit with the impact on the environment and people. Because it is an economic perspective, the first objective, again as I told you, is balancing economic growth, profit, keeping in mind the environment and the people. So, the economic perspective of sustainable development leads to the following policy objectives. That is, if there is a country which is intending to have sustainability with an economic perspective, two things will be there in their policy objectives. A, limit consumption of renewable resources to the sustainable yield level. That is, the renewable resources that we have, we should limit the consumption of those renewable resources also, because you want to give time to nature to replenish that resource back. So, what are the sustainable yield levels of these renewable resources? You calculate that and then you set the limit of the consumption of these renewable resources. And second objective is to reinvest the proceeds from the exploitation of non-renewable resources into investment in renewable resources. What does it say? It says that if we are using non-renewable resources and if we are exploiting these non-renewable resources because we intend to generate profit and economic growth, so whatever profits are being earned by way of use of these non-renewable resources, those profits should be reinvested back in the investment of the renewable resources, so that what we are reducing here, we can take care here. So, economic perspective is also looking into the renewable as well as the use of non-renewable resources. Renewable resources, we intend to have consumption to its sustainable yield level. For the non-renewable resources, we are saying nobody is stopping them to use these non-renewable resources, but they should be such that whatever profit is earned by the use of non-renewable resources, that should be invested back into the renewable resources. The second perspective of sustainability is the ecological perspective. This perspective emphasizes and on the importance of understanding and respecting the limits of natural system. That is, there is a limit to which the natural system can provide you the resources. So, it emphasizes that people or the economies understand, also respect that there is a limit of the natural system, and these are governed by physical laws and ecological principles. One of the principles which we studied in the previous lecture was the material balance approach, where we had talked about the law of thermodynamics and how we used it in environmental economics. What does it say? Unlike the economic perspective, which focuses on unlimited growth and resource exploitation. We have just seen the economic perspective, where we had said the generation of the profit and stability of the economy are the prime motto, and then it has to be followed by environmental and the social perspective. But ecological perspective says that unlike the focus on unlimited growth and resource exploitation, this ecological perspective recognizes that natural systems operate within finite boundaries. That is, nature does not have infinite capacity to take in the waste which people dump when they are done with the use of that resource, because there is a capacity to which the resource environment can also act as a waste sink. So it has recognized that as other resources, your environment also has certain finite boundaries. So unlike the economic perspective, which was talking about unlimited growth and resource exploitation, this is saying that the natural systems are operating within finite boundaries. And therefore, humans have to accept those boundaries of a finite time up to which the only natural capital will last. That is, we have to understand that this natural capital has a finite lifetime. It will not be there forever. Okay, so unless we accept that this natural capital also has finite time, people will keep on exploiting and using these resources and hence damaging the ecosystem further. Further, in this ecological perspective, it is basically focusing on maintaining ecological resilience. Now, what is this ecological resilience? Ecological resilience is an ecosystem's ability to respond to disturbance and return to its normal state. So, if there is a certain disturbance in the ecosystem, which happens generally because human beings overexploit these resources. So, if the ecosystem gets disturbed, so what is its ability to respond to this disturbance and not only return back to its normal state? That is called as ecological resilience. Something very similar to what human beings, if we suffer some kind of a setback, how do we respond to that setback and how much time do we take to come back to the normal state? Similarly, this ecological resilience says that how much time the ecosystem will take to come back to its original state after it has faced certain disturbance. And this ecological perspective is talking about maintenance of the ecological resilience. What can be these disturbances? Disturbance can be natural, like floods and storms, or it can be human caused, like climate change and deforestation. So this particular approach, which is ecological economic approach, prioritizes the sustainability over the systems, the sustainabilities of systems over what? Over individual interests, and recognizes the interconnectedness of economic, ecological and social systems. So, in this ecological approach, as compared to the economic approach, the focus of sustainability is on the systems rather than on the individual interest. And of course, it recognizes that all three are interconnected. We have seen a few slides back, the diagram we made that environment is a large set under which we see society and economy. So that is also recognized by this ecological perspective, but it is saying that there is a limit to which the human beings, for their own consumption, for their own needs today, there is a limit to which these natural resources are available. Unmindful use or unmindful exploitation of these resources will leave nothing for the future generations because it will disturb the whole ecology. The third perspective that we have is the social perspective. Now, this social perspective of sustainability is emphasizing the importance of addressing what? Addressing social equity, justice and well-being. We just saw that when we talked about the social sustainability, there we said it is the well-being of the people which is more important. So here we are saying that sustainability will not only come if the economy grows by having a higher per capita income, or if we maintain only the natural capital. Sustainability will also come when there is social equity, when there is justice and the well-being is there. Well-being, of course, of the human well-being is there. So all these say the efforts are required to address these questions of social equity, justice and well-being, and then only we can achieve sustainable development. So the idea of social sustainability is basically to ensure that the conditions of well-being are being passed down from one generation to the next. The definition when we saw of sustainable development by the Brundtland report, we had said that it is talking about intergenerational equity. So that particular concept is being taken in social perspective. That is, we have to ensure that the conditions of well-being are such which are being passed down from one generation to the next, which ensures that there is social equity, there is justice and well-being. And not only this social perspective includes the consequences for individual people, groups of people and society as a whole. As we had studied in the previous lectures, that environmental economics is in its nature is both micro and macro. So if we see the social perspective, we see it is talking about individual people, that is, it is a micro concept, groups of people, again a micro concept, and society, which is an aggregate concept. So what is happening in terms of sustainability? The consequences will be on the individuals, it will be on the group of people, or it will be on the society. So social sustainability basically encompasses talking about human rights, labor rights and corporate governance. Because ultimate objective of any economy or any country is to have the well-being of the people. Well-being does not only mean that we give greater income. Well-being means that what is happening to their basic human rights. What is happening to the labor rights? That is, whether the labor who's involved in the whole production process, are they being paid fairly or not? Are we talking about gender equality? Are we talking about equality of women and men in terms of wages which we are giving to them? And also on the corporate governance, that is companies, the firms which are using the resources, which are more natural resources and man-made resources, how are they using these resources? Are they using the business ethics which should be there? So the morality and ethics, which is the normative concept of environmental economics, are coming under the social sustainability. So as you must have gauged by now, social sustainability aims to enhance the quality of life. That is, it ensures that the quality of life of the people is improved for all individuals. How? By promoting their well-being, promoting their health, promoting their safety and promoting their happiness. Not only this, social perspective also involves engaging and empowering communities in decision-making processes related to environmental and social issues. That is, the decision-making with respect to any environmental resources or the society should not be the forte of a few people who are sitting in the administration. It says that we need to empower and engage communities in telling or giving inputs for what type of policies should be made for environmental as well as the social issues. So intergenerational equity, which we just said, is advocated in this concept, How this says you can get intergeneration equity? It says this can be done by the responsible management of natural resources, of conservation of biodiversity, and addressing climate change and environmental degradation. So, when we focus the society and when we take the society's decision into consideration so that we have a responsible management of natural resources or conservation of biodiversity, so that whatever is being available to the present generations also gets passed down to the future generation, then only in the true sense we can have sustainability. Now, one very important view is that no sustainability can be just, or no policy particularly regarding sustainability can only focus on social sustainability, economic stability, or ecological perspective, or social perspective, or environmental perspective. There has to be a synthesis of perspectives. What does this synthesis means? It says that the social equity, basic needs fulfillment, participatory democracy, and environmental sustainability are interconnected facets of the development. That is, we cannot have economic stability without fulfilling the basic needs of the people. We cannot think about social sustainability without ensuring social equity. We cannot think of environmental perspective without thinking as to what is happening to the natural resources. So, preserving natural capital, it says, is vital for sustainable economic production as well as intergenerational equity. That is, no country can stop producing. So, economic production has to be there, but this has to be sustainable. So, if we want to have sustainable economic production and also ensure intergenerational equity, what we need to do is preserve natural capital. However, because of the nature of the natural capital, the market mechanisms alone, by way of in economics what we call as invisible hand principles, can achieve their goals on their own. So, this would mean that we need some kind of intervention in terms of policy which ensures that markets do not fail, and these public goods or the natural capital should have the component of sustainability. From the ecological point of view, both population and total resources should be subject to limits of growth. We've just seen that ecological perspective says that the growth of natural resources or the use of natural resources cannot be infinite. There is a limit to growth. So, the integrity of ecosystem and the diversity of species has to be maintained. And then it says that sustainable development can address, of course, social inequities and environmental harm while sustaining a robust economy. So, it is only sustainable development with its three pillars of society, environment and economy, which can ensure that there is social equality, there is no environmental harm, and on the other side, we also have a robust growing economy. So, let us just revise whatever we have done in today's lecture. We have talked about the concept of sustainable development, which is basically talking about meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their needs. We have said that there are three pillars to sustainable development: the social pillar, environmental pillar and the economic pillar. And then we have also talked about the three perspectives with respect to the sustainability, which were interconnected with the three pillars of sustainable development. So, this is just the introduction of sustainable development. In the coming lectures, we will be seeing the difference between weak and strong sustainability, and also we will be understanding the sustainable development rules. So, thank you till now.